now the time has come for us to honor Father Mark for his many, many years of faithful service here at Christ Church. And I'm going to start with just a little bit of history about Mark. Mark is native of suburban Chicago. He left Illinois to receive a bachelor degree in chemistry from Colorado College, Colorado Springs, just up the road here. It was about this time 50 years ago now. 50 years ago now. We're not just celebrating his 28 years in Christ Church, but 50 years in calling to serve God's people. About 50 years ago that Mark discerned a call, one that would change the direction of his life. And that change is where he is today. This is part of that direction. He was looking at going into medical school, and I talked to his brother, and he was accepted at every medical school that he applied to. But he felt this calling to change the direction of his life. And then Mark went on to receive a Master of Divinity from the Episcopal Theological Seminary of the Southwest. He was ordained to the priesthood in 1980 at St. Joseph's Episcopal Church in Lakewood, Colorado, where he was serving as a curate. So 1980, he was ordained. So it's been 46 years on that score. So and he's retiring from not only Christ Church, but a career in ministry. Although I bet he'll find some kind of ministry to take up in Denver. But anyway, after he was ordained, he left Colorado to serve as a rector at parishes in both Texas and Nebraska. Then he returned to Colorado and began serving here at Christ Church in 1998. His first service here was like the first Sunday in February in 1998. So, and this is like the last Sunday in January. So 28 full years here. Mark is blessed to have 3 wonderful brothers in the Chicago area and this amazing Denver family that all showed up here. Mark enjoys playing piano, growing roses, and sharing life with his aging dog, Winston. And he has been nourished, and he has nourished us through numerous prayer practices and lessons, but I'll get into that later. We've got 6 speakers lined up today, and I know probably 95 of you could probably get up here and say something, but in the interest of a little bit shorter time, we selected six speakers. Mark will be around after the service if you'd like to share something privately with him, or there's a card box that you can drop him a note that's getting kind of full of mementos that he can read later. So the first speaker on our agenda is Brian Fredrickson, who was a long-time senior warden here at Christ Church and then moved to Santa Fe a few years ago. Brian?
Well, thanks for indulging me. I won't make a long speech. I was talking to Connie Liptrap earlier, who's a spiritual warrior, as you know. And she said, I don't think we're going to get through the day without shedding a few tears. I think she's right. Mark, you've seen a lot of people come and go. A lot of folks come and go to their eternal rest through these doors. You have sat in weekly meetings with a lot of senior wardens over the years. In fact, I was sitting with Dan Blackwell at lunch, and his wife Debbie said, Dan's a numbers guy. So we posed the question, if Mark sat down with every senior warden since the beginning, weekly, for our meetings, That would be 1,456 meetings. And that's just with the senior warden. That doesn't count all the other meetings that Mark attended. Mark, your friendship over the years, my gosh, I'm so grateful for the way you conduct the church service. There's a, you know, as you're moving through the liturgy, the way Mark does it, there's always this holy pause, you know, where it becomes a very meditative experience. And every time I've come to a service here with Mark, I've been struck by that. And Mark is the one who sets that tone. And he does it so beautifully and so reverently. And I am so appreciative of the way you make this place a really spiritual, God-seeking place. But Mark and I have a friendship outside of church, and I want to just tell you a brief story about that. When I was living here, I had a pretty busy law practice, and so at least once a year, I would make a point of going down to Monastery of Christ in the Desert, which is a Benedictine monastery out in the wilderness, about 15 miles from Abiquiu, New Mexico, just for a spiritual retreat. And Mark came along at least a couple times. And it was wonderful because we could sit outside on the portico outside the room by candlelight and discuss Father Richard Rohr's brilliant theology, I treasure those times. But the monks would have a work period every morning after terce, which is usually at 9 o'clock in the morning. So we'd have terce. And then the monk who headed up the work detail would gather the guests together and assign tasks. Well, one day when Mark and I were there, Brother Andre came up to us and said, "Follow me." So he took us back into the cloister. And that's a private place where the monks reside. And at Monastery of Christ in the Desert, it's a beautiful cloister. If you know anything about monasteries, it's a rectangular shape with a fountain in the middle. And he said, "We want to change the landscaping in here a little bit." So Brother Andre said, "We want you guys to take these pfitzers out that were sort of around the perimeter of the courtyard." And then he said, but one thing, there's a great big bull snake that lives in these pfitzers, and he's a friend of ours because if you know anything about bull snakes, they are territorial and they scare away the rattlesnakes. And we don't want rattlesnakes in here. So with that caveat, Mark and I start tearing these pfitzers out. And all of a sudden, I see Mark jump back because he had discovered the bull snake. And it was a good-sized bull snake. There's a lot to eat in the desert for snakes. But I got a kick out of that. He wandered off. I don't know where he went. But anyway, Mark and I finished up the job. And that was a wonderful memory. Mark, we have been friends a long time. I took a couple tours of duty as senior warden. I don't know how many tours of duty on the vestry. But they were always, I can't say they were always enjoyable. But they were always, there was always something interesting going on. As similar to my law practice, where there's always some interesting problem that comes in the door that we're asked to resolve. And we did the best we could. And Mark was just such a good guy to work with, so reasonable, so accepting of counsel. What he may not realize is he provided me more spiritual counsel, I think, than any counsel I was able to provide him. Mark, thank you. You're turning a new page. I certainly wish you the best as you discover new aspects of this person, Mark Meyer.
Our next speaker will be our regional missioner for the Sangre de Cristo region of the Episcopal Church in Colorado, and her name is Deborah Lowry. Deborah?
Good afternoon. I'm Deborah Lowry, and this is the Reverend Deacon Linda Brown, and we bring you greetings from your diocese, and specifically from the Sangre de Cristo region. So our region goes from Monument, Colorado, all the way down to Pueblo. Actually, it goes down to the border of New Mexico, but we have the only churches we have south are the churches in Pueblo, all the way out to Lamar, Colorado, and west to Cripple Creek is our church furthest west. And there are 12 churches now in your region. I became the missioner 2.5 years ago when Father Rich Munsell retired from that ministry. And one of the first people who really greeted me was Father Mark, and just made me feel so comfortable and at home. And I recognize that now because that's exactly what I feel when I come into your church, the love and the hospitality that you share with people who come in to be with you. I believe Mark is the longest standing member of the Executive Council for the Sangre de Cristo region. There's a group of 7 of us that meet to discuss regional matters and specifically to disperse the grants that are given out of the money that you gift to the region. And Mark is always wonderful about saying yes when I say, would you pray for this? Or what do you think about this? What is your opinion? And has been so helpful to me in my new job, and I really appreciate that. Linda brings you greetings from Cathedral Ridge, as well as the diocese, and is traveling with me now. She also is our representative to the standing committee. So she's the one to talk to if you've got questions about the diocese. I can try and find out things for you. I polled the council, and we thought it was appropriate to give a significant gift to the animal shelter of your choice in honor of your ministry and your work with us. So, yeah, thank you very much.
Next up is younger brother Steve, who's going to share something from the earlier years.
Good afternoon. All of you here know Father Mark as Father Mark, but I'm here to say a few words as Brother Mark. We grew up a family of 4 boys, mother and father who were both physicians and both very regular in their church attendance. And so I'll give you just a little background on the 4 boys. Paul, who's here with us today, is the oldest. And of course, when you grow up in a household of 4 boys, everybody has either their nickname or what they're known as. And Paul was the most competitive one. There was always a football or softball game going in our front yard, and I can't tell you how many games I played with kids that were 4 years older than me because there was an opening on the roster and Paul pulled me in. I'll hold Mark. Mark is number 2. I'm the 3rd brother, probably thought of as the easygoing one. It's sometimes one of the athletic ones of the group. And then Dan, our younger brother, who's not here today, is kind of the wild one, the outdoorsy one. Going through high school, he's out bow hunting and playing football. But then we circle back to Brother Mark, and I don't think anybody would be surprised to hear that he was the smart one. And he was also the musical one. But let me stick with smart for a minute. You know, if you can transport back, he's 2 years older than I am, so 69 and a half years I've been with Mark. And there was no internet, there was no ChatGPT, there was no artificial intelligence. So when any question came up, whether it was science or literature or anything, well, go ask Mark. Mark will know. And if it's an encyclopedia or a library book or whatever, I can remember my mother's mom was ill and dying, and Mark was coming up with medical diagnosis that maybe she should be treated for this. And then one last little anecdote I'll say. I remember singing in church choir with Mark growing up as a kid, and thinking I was doing pretty well until I'd look next to me and he would be going, "You're a little flat, Steve, take it up a little bit." So, and then one last story. In high school, we were together in marching band. He not only played piano marvelously, but also played trombone in marching band. And he pretty much brought out the best in other people, because we had a pretty ornery band director, kind of a volatile guy, and we're out on the football field practicing our formations, and he was screaming at everybody, and so he screamed at Mark. And then coyly, when we got back in the building, came by and said to Mark, "I can't believe I just yelled at you out there." So he was known for his dignity even back then. But all I can say is we're thrilled to be here. My wife Maureen is here with us too, for Mark's last day here at Christ Church. And Mark, we love you as a brother.
Our next up speaker is Lois Goodman, and Lois attends the Shepherd of the Hills Lutheran Church. And Shepherd of the Hills is kind of a sister church to Christ Church. We do a number of joint services and picnics together over the years, and Mark sometimes fills in over there when their pastor's been absent, and so we have a connection with Shepherd of the Hills, and they were having this is their big annual meeting over there, but Lois has come over to represent the church. Lois?
I'm glad to be here to celebrate this time with Father Mark. I moved back here in 2007, I was, and you were giving communion each week, I think, at Hildebrand. Yeah, that's where I first knew about Father Mark. And I guess I've always had an ecumenical heart. I am Presbyterian. When the Presbyterian Church closed in 2017, well, I had always kind of attended services at Shepherd of the Hills because we have corresponding membership, so I felt right at home. Well, today, because the annual meeting has happened, I have been commissioned to bring greetings from Shepherd of the Hills Church. And to give you a gift and to thank you for your service not only at Christ Church, but for our connection as Shepherd of the Hills and Christ Episcopal. And so we have this present for you. And
You guys have to stand to get, we have to have for proof. This was specifically requested that you, they want a picture for their bulletin next week. So you gotta do a,
It's a picture of Shepherd of the Hills Lutheran Church, which is half a block from my house. And it's Father Mark Meyer, in appreciation of our years of joint ministry and fellowship in Canon City, Colorado. Blessings from your Shepherd of the Hills family, January 2026.
next up is our outgoing senior warden, Barbara Smith. And Barbara's done a number of stints on our church vestry or church council, and second time as senior warden.
I have thoroughly enjoyed being on the vestry and especially senior warden. You're talking about most of the time it's a lot of fun and really interesting, and then there was the time that we put the bathroom in and not everyone wanted the bathroom. That was an issue. Go figure. I'd like to share 3 stories with you that kind of demonstrates some of the ways that Father Mark has cared for us. Everybody has a dog story. Father Mark had a dog named Serena, and she had ADHD, and I know folks here know who I'm talking about. She escaped one time, and we had a search and rescue team that went out looking for her, and we put flyers up, combed the streets, and in the end, Serena came home. She found her way home. But it demonstrated the strong community that Father Mark has so fostered, and we all got out there and looked for her. Father Mark was especially gifted with our youth. And you know what's coming, I think. He challenged them to raise $3,000, and then he would sit up here and have his head shaved. And I think they had to go so long without any food, and they did it, and they raised the $3,000, and he sat right up here, and they shaved his head. And here's the photo of it. And we'll leave that so you can see. And you know what? We all look a lot younger in that picture, too. My final story is a very personal one, but it illustrates Mark's very deep commitment for caring for our members. Whenever anyone is in the hospital, Father Mark always visits. When my husband Jim was dying and he was unconscious, Father Mark came to see us. He asked if I wanted him to anoint him and pray, and of course I said yes. Father Mark prayed, he anointed him, and he left. Now you got to remember, Jim was unconscious. After Father Mark left, Jim sat straight up in bed, smiled broadly, and laid back down again. And it was a moment I will always hold close. On behalf of the vestry, and we'd like to present you with an icon, and the Coopers framed it. So it's from all of us, and it's from Kelly Latimer, and the power is contemplative and reflects a reflection on recognition and spiritual awakening. And that is from the vestry. And I just want to say that you're just very special to all of us, and we are profoundly grateful for your ministry, and thank you.
Shirley Squire, who has been the photographer, but that's just one of her many roles at Christ Church over the years. But she does have a good photo record, but she's in charge of hospitality. She's just anything happening here, Shirley's usually involved. So Shirley is presenting a gift from the parish.
Congratulations, Mark. After 28 years of faithful ministry, it's hard to find words enough to say thank you. But as the saying goes, a picture is worth 1,000 words. And today we wanted to give you something that holds 1,000 of them. The Aura digital picture frame is our way of giving you a gift that keeps on giving. We've uploaded photos from throughout your ministry and your life with us. Moments of worship, celebrations, service, and everyday life in this church family. Each picture represents a memory, a relationship, and a life touched by your ministry. As you move into retirement, our hope is that when the frame lights up, it reminds you not only of what you did here, but the people you walked alongside and the love you shared for 28 years. Thank you for being our pastor, our shepherd, and our friend. May this gift bring you joy, love, and peace as you begin a new chapter of your life. Thank you for your many blessings and our cherished memories. Lovingly, your Christ Church family and friends.
Where is my lovely assistant? I'm Mike Smith. I'm the incoming senior warden as about a week ago. So I'm taking over from Barb as the lay leader for Christ Church. And we have a gift from the congregation that we'd like to present to you. This is a plaque in gratitude for your 28 years of servant leadership here at Christ Church. the 28 years that you have blessed us as our pastor. And I'm going to get back to that in a minute.
He likes tape.
If you could hold up the plaque, Linda. When we upgraded the church a couple of years ago to accommodate the modern crash bars on our doors for fire safety standards, we removed the old historic 100-year-old door plates on all of our exterior doors. This historic doorknob was removed from just inside the chapel over here. It's a doorknob that Mark would have turned literally thousands of times during his years here. So when we upgraded, we saved the historic door plates, and we'd like to present this to you so you can continue. You know, if you miss us, you could just turn that doorknob, and it'd just be like being here again. I'll read the inscription. Pastor Mark Meyer, opening spiritual doors at Christ Episcopal Church, 1998 to 2026. And the lower inscription is a reading that Mark uses often in our services. It says, "Go into this world that God loves. Bless it with your imagination. Transform it with your courage. Renew it with your compassion. And may the Spirit's presence fill you with abundant hope and everlasting joy." Mark has opened many spiritual doorways at Christ Church through the years, through which everyone is welcome to enter. Doorways open to diverse opinions and diverse understandings of faith, where each person feels welcomed and accepted. He has pulled us all together through good times and tough times and COVID and hard times, and that's been one of his gifts. You know, we have little squabbles here in the church, and he manages to bring us back together, hold us. He's the glue that has kind of got us through some difficult times. But his life has always been an example for us. He continually demonstrates how one can actually live out the gospel in our ordinary lives. You see him, how he, you know, the Sermon on the Mount, and whatever you do for the least of my brothers and sisters, that you do for me. He has exemplified that. He's been a model example for me. And other accolades I'm going to read. You might be a little, he's usually not comfortable with praise, but we're going to do it anyway. Last June, the parishioners here, we completed a formal survey of those attributes that we most wanted in our new pastor. Well, surprise, surprise, the top 10 attributes look a lot like Father Mark. Very closely. So I'm going to, here was the questions. The survey asked the parishioners to describe the most important attributes essential for our future pastor. And the right candidate would be someone who offers a spiritual frame of reference for the challenging times we live in. Got a number of stars there. Someone who helps parishioners to develop and connect their inner spiritual life with the outer world. An engaging preacher and creative teacher who shares the gospel with passion and creativity. A collaborative leader who leads with confidence and kindness, empowering lay leaders and supporting shared ministry. These were, the top 10, and they all describe Mark, surprise. Someone who provides attentive pastoral care, especially to older members, and actively builds community within and beyond the parish. An inclusive and compassionate presence, embracing diversity and ensuring all individuals feel welcomed, loved, and valued. Finally, someone who will guide our parish forward through faith, gratitude, and humility. For 28 years, Mark has exemplified all these attributes and much more for the members of our Christ Church parish family and our surrounding community. He's been very active in the local Canon City community as well. And so now, this is coming to the conclusion of this farewell. I want you to open your bulletins. Remember, you were supposed to keep those. If you go to the back page, then we'll all stand, and I want you to extend your arm over Father Mark. Mark, you'll stand right in here. And read along with me. Father Mark, on this day we celebrate you and your many years of faithful service here at Christ Church. We recognize how God has blessed us through you, and we are grateful that God called you to be our pastor. Thank you for the way you have cared for us in every season, even when sometimes we have been hard to love. As we say goodbye to you after a ministry well done, it is time to bless you on your way. May you find time for relaxation. May you find time to reflect on what this ministry has meant in your life. May you find new opportunities for living out your faith. Go in peace with the love and the gratefulness of this whole congregation. Amen. I also want to thank, before the committee that did all the hospitality and all the planning. I had someone say that the St. Cloud Hotel wouldn't have done better, and that you should all hire out as a catering service. So thank you to the committee.